Welcome to the space where creators have aligned a positive and intellectual collab of open minds. For sharing and learning from one another, it's a vibe. ReadswithRosa podcast on the mic. Subscribe, educator spitting bars. I guess you didn't know I'm multifaceted and humble, taking off life goals. The classroom is my comfort zone where I plant and sow seeds of knowledge, compassion, empathy, and hope. Reading is the key to unlocking your potential. Countless benefits, including cognitive and mental. Regardless of the genre, books are highly influential. Go get yours, I'll get mine. Making strides, monumental. Come rock with me and get down to this new jam. With my friends, I had a very simple plan. Educate the masses through books and life lessons. It's the grand slam. I'm out. Dala falava, malo elele, and welcome to the Reads with Rosa podcast. On today's show, we have a freelance director, producer, and production designer of Tongan, English, Scottish, and Māori ancestry, who has filmed and exhibited extensively throughout the Pacific. Her debut feature for My Father's Kingdom had its world premiere in the Berlin Film Festival in 2019. It was the first Pacific Island feature documentary funded by the New Zealand Film Commission and first in the world to be directed and produced by Tongan females. She is the co-founder of the family-based visual production company Malosi Pictures based in Auckland, and her passion is storytelling through a Moana Pasifika lens. It is such an honor to welcome to the show Vea Mafile'o. Yay! Woohoo! I know I do need to invest in the audience button, but that's okay. We're okay. We're good. How are you?
Good. Malolile.
It's such an honor to welcome you to the show. Woo, I'm a fan. How is life over in Aotearoa? How is the weather over there?
Today is pretty rainy. It's pretty horrible today, actually. But it's all good because summer's coming. And, I just can't wait to just have warm nights. I think that's what I miss about New Zealand, in comparison with the islands. It's just like having the warm nights. So I'm excited for that to kick in shortly. It should be coming soon.
Let's hope for the best. I'd like to ask our guests to just brief introductions, shout out your family, villages.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
So, malolele, everyone. I'm from, as you said, English, Scottish ancestry on my mother's side. And from Tongoleleka Hihifo Hapai on my father's side, and we also, our great-great-grandfather was a Māori whaler. He jumped ship in Tonga in Hapai, but we actually haven't followed that ancestry line, so that's still to be uncovered. Just based here in Tamaki, Makaurau, and Papatoetoe. Originally from Hamilton, and been up here in Auckland over, just coming on, must be nearly 23 years now. So,
Wow, let's talk about Hamilton. I mean, when I was researching you, it was so interesting. I was like, a dairy farm? What was it like growing up in that type of environment in Hamilton?
Well, we had I always like to say that we had the best of both worlds in terms of having the influences of both our cultures in our lives. Even though we were born and brought up in Hamilton, we still were able to maintain quite a lot of Tongan connections through our dad being the leader of the Tongan Society and starting that movement up in Hamilton, but then also having the opportunity to be able to go back and forth to Tonga in different times as we were growing up and, experience going to school over there, experience properly living there, no washing machine, that kind of, really getting to know the whenua and the land and of both places. And I think, especially growing up on the farm was our playground when we were growing up. Me and my siblings, if we weren't climbing trees, looking for birds' nests. Well, that was me. That was my thing. We were mucking around in the paddocks and the troughs and the drains, fishing for eels or sprats, or just really. I think blessed to, even though it was dairy farm, just be able to live in an environment that was country life. So definitely love our childhood and the experiences that gave us. And living in Hamilton is such a small town. I think we all learnt to drive like super early, like I was 13 something, to be able to drive into town. And we didn't and we just got our licenses as soon as possible. But in saying that, it was also we were definitely at our primary school like the only brown family, and then high school pretty much the only Tongan family. But that had its good points as well. And so I'd like to say that I had a really enjoyable childhood. So yeah.
Were there other Pacific Islanders in the area? Like, I mean, you were able to travel back to Tonga to have that connection with the family. But in your own immediate community there in Hamilton, like, were you seeing like other? I mean, probably Māori families, but other Pacific Islanders or brown folks.
Yeah, well, there was we used to go to Tongan church, which was in town, so we'd go into town with Dad, and so we knew that the Tongan community there, it was very, very small, like everyone knew everyone. And then in high school we were able to, I think I was part of the committee that formed the first Polyfest for Hamilton. So that was ages ago. So we tried to kind of have a Pacific influence in Hamilton and find our people as much as possible. But at high school, definitely there were a few Pacific families. So I was gravitated toward the Māoris, was in the kapahaka group, was in the whānau, learnt Māori language, and that was all good. Yeah, but we also, living on the farm, Dad would give a few paddocks up for kumara planting. So all the Tongans would come out and plant their kumaras, and so they would always come out and kind of be around the farm as well, which was really, really nice. We would spend hours playing in the kumara patch, and I think just having that space to be able to grow your own vegetables and stuff for the community. So yeah, that was cool.
When did you know that you loved film, or when did you get your first camera? Like, when did the love for images and things like that bug, when did it hit you?
Well, we never had a TV growing up. My friends used to have TVs, so I would always try and like go and play at their house and stay at their house and watch stuff there. But it was never really a big ambition of mine to get into the film industry. I mean, I think I remember when I was about 14 watching The Last of the Mohicans and just like crying and just being so like emotionally moved by one of the scenes, Alice, when she jumps off the cliff. And I think from there that triggered like this, like, oh wow, film is so powerful. Because when you're like 14, your emotions are very heightened, and of course it was a love scene. So I think from there it well, not a love scene, but it showed the greatest love. She was willing to sacrifice her life, kind of thing. So I think, but I had always wanted to be a painter, an artist, and so after all the way through high school, I took all the art subjects, painting, printing, sculpture, art history, because I really, I'm dyslexic. So English and writing and maths and everything was just like super hard for me. I mean, I managed to pass everything, but it was like 50s, 52, because back then, it was school C, so you just had to pass. So I had always had a passion for the arts, but never driven to do film until when was it? I came up to Auckland to go to art school. What happened after high school was I did a year doing scuba diving and worked in Tonga for a while as a dive instructor, and then realized this is a very cowboy job, and I could get really comfortable and stay here and just end up tropo and have a really awesome, fun life, like best years of my life. But I was just like, oh man, I need to get a degree, get some formal education. Well, the drive, my parents had always driven us to go to uni. And so, yeah, came up to Auckland to go to art school and moved into the middle of Otara. And that was a complete culture shock in terms of, wow, there's everyone here looks like us. Everyone, like no one's staring at us anymore. We kind of fit in, and there's so many brown people and there's so many islanders. Like, this is crazy. So it was kind of a little bit of, we just felt comfortable, whereas in Hamilton, yes, we grew up there, but there was never, I guess we kind of found a little bit of of home. And went to art school. So at art school, there's a contextual studies component, which is, the writing and the essays and everything. And again, I hated that part with passion. And so my sister and I, she came up with me, and she's a photographer. That's her photography actually behind on the walls.
Wow.
We would go over to Tonga in our school break, in our school holidays, and photograph. And we would just try and absorb as much of Tonga as possible and grab all this content and bring it back to art school and develop it. But I one year took over a little camcorder and recorded all my interviews and everything through that, and then had I don't know, over 20 tapes, and came back and realized that I couldn't make anything else or sculpture or something out of anything that would be better than the actual footage. So it was from that, which was supposed to just be my research, that it became my actual artwork. And then my work moved away from sculpture into moving image installation. And so really kind of combining the sculptural space and environment with the moving images that I had got from Tonga. Yeah.
Wow. But I'm learning a lot. I thought I had read up everything, but I'm like, okay. I was wondering about, your passion for storytelling, especially the Moana Pasifika lens, and your extensive years of experience. How have you seen that change from when you started to currently? Has there been a huge shift in our storytelling? Are we more bold in our storytelling, or have we always been bold and people just didn't recognize it? What are some thoughts that you have around that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning, well, back when we were just kind of starting and finding our feet in the industry, there was just a few sort of Pacific programs. Pacific Beach Street, Tangata Pasifika, and Fresh, and it was all very kind of safe to a certain extent. It was just kind of like covering the polyfest and everything, which is fine, but I think it has taken us a little while to kind of get into the meatier topics and be okay with talking about things more and exploring stuff visually, but if you look at the time span of film in the world, the Europeans and the Asians, they've had over 120 years or so of being able to find their film language and develop what that is for their culture and their people, and the best way to transcend their messages through film and digital imagery. So it's as a culture, the digital world is only new to us. So you can almost count on your hand how many features that are made by Pacific people, and there's not many. So we're really just kind of really beginning at the beginning stages of creating what our identity in the digital space. So yeah, I mean, it has developed quite a lot, but it's also been quite a slow process for us. You look at, but I think that's kind of like Indigenous peoples globally. It's taken us harder because we have to deal with things about life, and there's just not the education and research around stuff to really push it harder, because there's a lot of firsts. We're doing all the discoveries that all the other cultures have done years ago. So we're there, and we're just going to get better.
Did you have mentors? What I mean is other Pacific Island mentors in the space that you could reach out to, or are you the mentor now for others? Like, what I mean is, like, were you just kind of like trying to find your way, trying to find your place in the world, or at least in the art world?
Yeah, I mean, there was the few kind of like handful, like Sima Urale, the Lisa Talmas, who specific people who have been in the industry, who have been able to kind of like put a hand down and pull people up, which I've been very grateful for. A lot of the opportunities that I have had in the industry have just been through making those solid connections and just saying yes to things, even if I don't know. Do you want to direct? Okay. And just it has been a rolling ball, but I think that's kind of comes hand in hand with this industry, because you can learn so much on the job, and you're always learning. I did a director's attachment on Lord of the Rings a couple of years ago. Oh my gosh, was it a couple of years ago now? Gosh. But, even that big, expansive machine of what it was, they were still changing dialogue on set. They were still changing the way that the ship should be on set, and so even though there's so much prep and so much money gone into it, whenever things are together on set, human nature, things change, things feel different with the environment. So that was kind of actually really good to see that no one knows everything. Everyone is still learning, and you look at people and you're like, oh, they must have their stuff together, but then the actuality is like, no, they're actually still learning. It's all good.
And it's okay, right?
Oh yeah, it's totally okay, and I think one of the things that I've always just had in the back of my mind is just like, fake it till you make it. and you're never going to make it. So you just keep faking it until you like, you know, no, but it's that, I think that's it. Like, as long as you try your hardest, then, you know, yeah.
You know, let's talk about the documentary, your feature, our debut feature, For My Father's Kingdom. I remember I was in Japan at that time when this was all, I was reading it all through Twitter. Man, tell us about For My Father's Kingdom. How did you manage to get everyone? I mean, I don't know. First of all, I guess what inspired you to tell that story, a very personal story? I guess we'll start there.
I think, you know, for because of our artwork, and we had always, you know, contextually been looking at different issues that have had affected our lives, and that I was interested in, like you know, religion, for example, and religion's impact on Tonga in particular, on my father actually, and so it just kind of for us, I guess, also being Hafakasi, I guess we've always had questioning nature about us, and our family has dealt with that in terms of like quite accepting with that, because I don't know. I guess it's hard to explain, but if we do see something that we don't think is quite sitting right with being a little bit logical, and not that it's illogical, some of these things, but I guess, you know, when we question things, it was always about not being disrespectful,
Right.
but just going, hey, there's probably a better way. You know, we can do things. So that's kind of always been within our Tongan family. You know, when we have our Tongan meetings and stuff, we've always had a sort of place to question, which we've always really appreciated. But I think, you know, some of these things around tithing and just really for me it was always about understanding why Dad felt like he had to give so much at the detriment to our family. And he would always, you know, my parents had split up for a number of years, but he would always, you know, Mum would kind of, when they were together, have a sort of cap and control around the spending. And so when, you know, there was the separation, he just went crazy and did whatever he felt like he needed to do, which was hard for us to witness as children, just going, oh, well, this doesn't make sense, Dad, because now you're asking us, and it's putting us into a financially difficult position. So, and the thing is I was hearing a lot from our communities. It's always been a grumble. And so as siblings, we were like, oh man, this is getting a little bit silly now, because it's upsetting people. It's putting people in really, how are we supposed to grow as communities, like when there's this big pressure upon us? So it was really from that. And I guess back then it was quite a place of anger, because we were still, well, I know I was very angry at Dad, given a lot of the separation stuff, but also because it was his time taken away from us and us as children. So it was really about Dad, us having the conversation with Dad and just really understanding why he felt so driven to do this. And Dad was all for being a part of it, because, you know, he loves us, and he wants us to really understand why he does it. So yeah, that's how it kind of started. And I guess it did start from a place of anger and of course, that kind of changed along the journey, but that was the fire and the passion to begin with. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for telling the story. Thank you for making the doco, telling the story, and putting that out there. I imagine it wasn't easy. It took a lot of courage, especially like you said, it started from a place of anger. So it must have been a whole journey of not just the storytelling, not just the authentic storytelling, but it is a story that resonates with us, even though we're not Tongan. I'm not Tongan, but I was just like so brave for your family just to get on board and put this out there, because it is a problem and it is something that we talk about. But you guys are so brave to speak that into existence and put it out there.
I think with my siblings, when we had a discussion before we embarked on the journey, we made an agreement like, okay, this is all or nothing. We've for this to transcend across cultures, for this to be as impactful as we need it to be, for an understanding of who we are and why we feel this way, then it has to be from a place of super truth. And it's like, it's all or nothing. Like, we've got to go hundies or it's a waste of time. And I think, that was always the agreement, I guess, between us in the outset, because we are hawhikasi, and we know that we're just instantly judged straight away. Oh, you're not Tongan enough. You don't understand what it's like to be Tongan. All this, you don't know the va, da, 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 which is fine, fair enough. But actually, this is from our perspective, and we had to, I guess, we needed to go deep in terms of the family story. Actually, this is what happened. No one can say anything because this is our actuality, like all that conversation is, you don't know to actually shut that down. This is our story, So, and that's what I think, with that mindset, we were able to, as a family, work through it. And we would always, have discussions along the way between our siblings and with Dad, and I guess feedback where we were at. And, I would say to Emily, oh, actually, when I had the talk with Dad the other day, he didn't even realize that he was really hurting us. He didn't even realize that we were like super upset, so and then just like all these kind of awarenesses to help each other understand each other's perspectives at that point of time. So but I'm grateful.
So For My Father's Kingdom had its world premiere, as mentioned before, at the Berlin Film Festival in 2019, won a jury award at the LA Asian Pacific Film Festival, placed third for the Melbourne International Documentary Audience Awards. It was the first Pacific Island feature documentary funded by the New Zealand Film Commission. That in itself is huge. And of course, first in the world to be directed and produced by Tongan females. Whoop, whoop. What was it like to be able to take this beyond the shores of Aotearoa and let other people, hear the story, hear your story?
I think to get into the Berlinale Film Festival was pretty awesome. Like, that was pretty amazing. That in itself was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool, because it's probably, one of the most prestigious European film festivals, and it's kind of like the one that you want to make it into. So that in itself was like, oh wow, that's pretty awesome. But I guess being able to go over there with my siblings and us kind of present our taonga to the world together was so much fun. I mean, in all reality, like they keep moaning at me like, oh, you put us through all this, da, da, da. But they actually, they appreciate their time. And yeah,
Did you get a lot?
It's been a trip.
Yeah. Was there a lot of feedback from your own community there? Communities there in Aotearoa, like, yeah, were people like, oh, I understood that. That's my story. Or I get, like, did you get a lot of that?
Yeah, we got, I guess it's a fine line when you're talking about these issues and religion and all of this. So I was always very conscious around like that line of it pushing it over or under, or what I didn't want was for people to be turned off and to be like, oh no, that's trash or whatever. But our community really embraced it and accepted it because they couldn't say any other wiser, because it was our actuality and it was our truth. And everyone just resonated with Dad. He's kind of like the typical dad figures. So and each of our family members, everyone's got a family. At the forefront of it, it's a family story first. And I think that was, even in Germany, the Germans were like, oh, I can see my family in that. That's my dad. He dresses up and goes with his old school buddies. And, so there's so many kind of like, it's not just about the Tongan cultural issues. It's actually some of the family dynamics that transcend culture. And tithing is a contention, like it's a thing worldwide. It's not just in our Pacific communities. So people can really understand. So from the feedback that we got from everyone, which was really positive. I mean, there was a couple of grumbles around the swear words, because my brother swears. Well, a couple of us kind of swear, but it's in context. And it kind of felt like we had massive kind of like, because there is the rule where you can't swear with your siblings in the room, and when you're watching TV, I mean, watching stuff. And so that was kind of like that thing where we go, do we break the rules, the Tongan rules here, or can we let this go? And I think so what we did was we made a couple of versions of the film, which is not a usual practice. The film commission were like, oh, that's not done. And I was like, well, actually we have to do it this way, because in a theater we can have the swearing, and at the film festivals, like that's his true authentic voice, and I don't want to strip that away from him. I don't want to take that moment away from him, because it's quite a powerful moment. But our other version that we take into our churches and our Tongan community hard, when we're going around into the community, yes, we've taken the swear words out. So that was the compromise. And I think that's been the only kind of negative stuff to feedback to me. I know Robert has been judged quite a lot, poor guy. Which has been a little bit tough for him. But I think also there's a lot of understanding of his position as well.
What was the biggest learning curve for My Father's Kingdom, the journey?
Probably the well-being support of just being aware of family members and ongoing stuff, because you're opening up a whole can of worms,
right?
And it's because this kind of open talking visual stuff is relatively new. Like we should have been much more aware about the emotional impacts of having this content so publicly screened. And so we've been doing a bit of work to try and so that's how we started up our new programming, Talaloto Fale, and that was because that real understanding of, hey, if we're making stuff like this, we not only need to support our people along the way and during it, but also the aftercare, because that was a bit of a downfall, and it was hard for my family.
I want to talk about Malosi Pictures. So, fam, if you're tuning in, Malosi Pictures, it's a creative media group that specializes in Pacific video and stills photography. It's based in Tamaki Makaurau, Aotearoa. Malosi is a Samoan word for strong or power. And I mean, Malosi Pictures is about empowering peoples through the work that you do. You are one of the co-founders. Tell us about Malosi Pictures. The journey thus far.
Yeah, so Malosi Pictures started, we had been in the TV industry for a number of years, and I had been set dressing a few short films and everything, but I had started to have a few children by then. I had 2 children, and I just wanted to be able to create opportunities that I had growing up where we could take the kids over to the islands and work / enjoy / holiday, 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing.
Right.
So, we started to create content that we wanted to make, in the sense that to become our own producers. So we, and that was really lucky, because during that time, the CocoNet had started out, which was a big kind of platform, and they were funding different projects. So we put together a whole bunch of projects that we wanted to do over in Tonga, and we went over there. We'd spend like 6 weeks over there and just do a whole chunk of work. And one of the works that a few of the works were these Tongan legends. And that was really awesome, because we used first-time actors. The crew, it was just me, my partner, and my sister, and our 2 cameras and little sound pack. But we were able to work with our friends and locals who were interested in doing camera and filmy stuff, and create these really awesome legends. And I think for me, like in reflection, the Ahueto was definitely like my most favorite work that I've ever done, because it was just so grassroots and so much fun. And we didn't have money to pay people, but we were able to feed people on set, and it was just it was just an awesome time in the sense that we were able to create these things on such a tiny budget, and show that others that you don't need all these fancy bits of equipment. It's really just comes down to story. And so that's how kind of Malosi Pictures was born, and created. And Malosi is the name of our oldest son. So it just kind of made sense to call it Malosi Pictures.
That's so cool. I've seen some soundscape videos on YouTube that you had that are on your YouTube there. It's so cool. Like for me, I didn't know a lot about soundscape until like meeting Matt, Anonymous, and seeing it. Like he came on the show too and talked a little bit about that. And then when I was researching for you, like I'm so curious about it ever since then. I was researching for this interview, and I was just like, oh my gosh, and found all these videos of the stuff that you had done. I mean, it's super dope. Like it's just, there's just something about the visual and just hearing the sounds, the ocean, and I mean, it's Yeah. I would
Yeah,
love to
yeah,
learn
no,
more about it. You know, like, mm,
that's definitely one of my favorite things to do, because to me it's like digital drawing.
mm,
Um, you know, with film and TV, there's kind of, I mean, you can get away with a little bit in experimental film, but with these soundscapes and the digital space, you can really experiment.
mm.
Yeah, and I really enjoy that part.
Are there any current, you know, projects? I don't know if you could talk about it that you're working on for Malosi Pictures. You know, how do you go about choosing projects? Is it like a long period of research and discussion? Are you always on the lookout for, you know, stories that can be told and produced through your company?
Yeah, well, so being freelance, I guess,
Mm.
Malosi Pictures goes in and out of projects. So Jerry, he just finished directing, um, was it Faith, Family, and Football, which is a
Oh,
documentary around professional rugby players, Pacific
oh,
professional rugby players. Um, and I am soon to be directing a feature documentary on Jonah Lomu,
mm,
um, but that will start up in the new year. Um, we we have a few other little projects kind of cooking away, but the focus sort of over the last couple of years has been building up the Tuttle Patch.
yeah,
Um,
we're moving. That was my
yeah,
next question. I was like, we're getting there. Perfect.
yeah,
Continue.
yeah, so, yeah. So, in that, the Tuttle Patch actually came um, from the film, for My Father's Kingdom, and
Mm,
understanding that, oh man, you know, people would come up to us and go, oh, that was an amazing film, da da da, and in my family, blah 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 blah, and talk about their story, and it
mm,
felt a lot of the times a lot, and you know, I've got screeds and screeds of messages of like all this kind of like emotional um discussion, that I was like, oh man, like we need more safe spaces
mm,
for these conversations to be had. Like we have just opened up this kind of can of worms for not just us, but a whole bunch of
mm,
people. So we, as you know, siblings decided to create this program called Talaloto Fale, and using the film as an anchor.
mm,
Um, and because you know, when you watch the film, it is a you can self-reflect so easily on your own lives, and it's an easier way for our people to start conversation, because it's springboarding off the back of someone else, and it
mm,
doesn't feel so intrusive in terms of, oh, I've got to start and tell my story first. You know, it just kind of opens the gateways of talanoa very nicely. And so we created this program. We did it with tangata Sa'ili Malo, which is Pasifika with disabilities,
mm,
and they created their own stories. And we realized, hey, this is something that we want to do more. We need our own space to be able to do that, to have computers set up so they can access whenever they need to. But also, we need a space that people will feel comfortable in immediately, and create an actual environment rather than using a community center or someone else's space.
mm.
So that's how we came to create the Tuttle Patch. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, since we're talking about it already, so I came to Taro Patch Creative. My brother came to a meeting. He was meeting with Norma and Matt and Move were there, and um I couldn't believe, like, I have followed you on Instagram and followed Taro Patch, and I have seen the amazing things that are being done there, the community initiatives, projects, workshops, artist talanoa, just the fact that community groups can use the facilities. I didn't realize how huge it was. I was like, literally, like, whoa, this is massive. Because you just like from the front, you just kind of like walk in, but then out the back, I mean, it's just such a beautiful space. Like, it was a pretty cold day, but we came and it was just so comfortable. Like, I really felt like, yeah, I can see why people come to this space. Like, for the short time I was there, I was like, yo, this is like, I mean, yeah, like, it's huge what you have all done there. And I mean, I was really gutted. I was home. When did I come home? Maybe 2 weeks ago. I was home for a week, and I
Oh,
just missed the Yuki Kihara. Um, yeah, I just missed the. I was leaving. Like, my brother received it. He was like, "Oh my god, look what's happening out at this." The artist talanoa. But I was leaving like a few days earlier. I think is when it happened. I was like, "Oh, gutted," but I just love what you're doing out there. I know I've seen like there's talanoa Tuesdays, like Rizvan and those guys, Siose, Benza, they're out there doing that with the navigators. I mean, it's just a really awesome space. If you're and if you're in Tamaki Makaurau fam, if you're tuning in, like if you get an opportunity, check the bio, follow Taro Patch Creative. I mean, they are really spotlighting, highlighting some amazing creatives and the work that they're doing. They are out there giving their flowers. Check out the community space. Go and check out Vea and her team and see what they're doing. Even you don't have to take a meeting there, but even just to drop by and just to see what an awesome hub it is. Like, it's such a really true, like, I was there for a short time. I was like, yo, this is such a beautiful, safe space. Like, I felt like, yo, I'm with the people. Like, I really felt like, yo, this is great. So, big flowers to you and your team and your family for what you're doing at Taro Patch. Super, super dope.
well, thank you. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's spaces like this that we need,
Mm.
creative spaces to just chill.
Yes, yes. You were able to you directed 2 episodes of the Panthers, the series, and I was, knowing the historical significance of that series. I mean, how were you able to approach that series as a director? Did you approach it any differently to how you would other projects or short films that you've worked on? Like, must have been
Yeah,
very special.
yeah. I mean, with the Panthers,
Mm,
because it wasn't necessarily my project,
mm, mm,
it was created by Tom and Noah, who were
mm,
the two producers slash showrunners.
mm,
Um, when you're a series director, um, there's already, if you direct episodes 1 and 2, there's already like the flavor
mm,
set of how the style that it's shot and the kind of the look of it. So you're a little bit following suit in terms of the creativity side. Like, you can put your kind of own spin on things, but it's very much kind of set in a formula of the whole kind of series layout.
mm,
But yeah, that whole series felt really awesome to be part of, because there was so many brown people in front of the camera, behind the
mm,
camera, and it just had a really choice vibe. Like, we knew that we were like doing this important story in history, and yeah, it's not 100% accurate, but it's drama, and this
mm,
is one version of it. There's probably going to be like, another 6 or 7 different versions. So it just felt really high energy,
mm,
and something to be proud of, because a lot of the actors were, again, very amateur actors. Uh, Even, I think that was my second time. I shot a drama short film the week before I started on Panthers, and
mm,
that's the only other time, apart from the Legends, that I've done drama. So
mm,
it was a real, like, throw you in the deep end. But it was good. I think we, everyone had a good time on that set.
I mentioned before that, like you've spoken in other interviews about this passion you have for storytelling through the Moana Pasifika lens. And is our type of storytelling, from your perspective, is our type of storytelling, uh, is there always a form of advocacy and activism in the stories that we tell? Do you think?
I think, there's always, you would always hope that there are multiple messages coming through, and that even if it's not something that's obvious, there's kind of like undercurrents of other issues that will trigger some thought. And I think that that's one of the clever ways that we as Pasifika can really kind of hone in on, because we do know that there is immediately always so much judgment. So if we can kind of really hone in on the ways where we can emotionally shift mind frames, because really to make changes, I believe, it's a change of heart is a change of head. So if we do want to make these kind of changes, then we do need to access people's hearts first. And we are emotional people, so that's definitely a way that we should, that's one of our what do you call it, that's what we're good at, so we might as well like go handies on it on screen, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I think that yes, there is all these things coming through, but other things will be more to the forefront than others. And I think that's the thing about being a good filmmaker, is that there's always underscores of things going on, and it's not just this one narrative, but there's all these other triggers, and well, not triggers, but all these other dynamics going on underneath.
I asked you earlier about, you mentioned when you were starting out in the industry, there were people that you had mentors that you could call on, and I wanted to ask about, currently, are there groups of Moana Pasifika creatives or artists, storytellers that are intentionally taking on up and coming writers, directors, producers, filmmakers? Like, do we have, like, is there a big organization of you? Is it pockets of organizations of Pasifika folks that are doing that work, like mentoring our up and coming, or what is that situation?
Well, we have PISA, so that's Pacific Island Screen Artists, and we started that up during COVID, because we realized that there wasn't, it was a very isolated industry in terms of there wasn't like a central point for us to gather and be supported by. And so PISA, you can look it up and join. That if you are wanting to create stories, whatever, be in the industry, then I really recommend joining up to PISA, because we have a whole bunch of different workshops and everything. And I guess there's the other thing with our industry is it's quite cliquey. And that's another reason why we started up the Tuttle Patch, so that there is a space that's not necessarily overly connected to just one production or one platform, but all Indigenous productions can come here and create work, and it be accessible to the community, because a lot of the time our industry stuff is not accessible. It's all kind of who it's very much we're all kind of fighting at the breadcrumbs for funding to be able to create stuff, and that's not a really healthy environment for us to thrive in when we're just trying to survive. So yeah, there's a lot of good work being done, but I think the more spaces that we have where it's kind of like we can come for these support networks, the better, because we can always grow with more.
How do you take care of yourself? What I like to ask everyone that comes on here, self-care. I mean, some people believe in it, others don't, and that's cool, but how do you take care of your health, well-being, mental health?
Well, I just finished at the gym.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes, folks. Actually, she's not even lying. She's for real. Because before we came on, she was like, "Do I look all right?" I just came from the gym. I was like, "Okay, so I see. Continue."
Yeah. So, that's definitely, and honestly, it's only because a gym has moved in upstairs, so it's we have to go, because they'll just give us evils and go, "Why are you not joining?" But it's good for us,
Right.
I'm not really like a gymmy person, so it's been quite a mindset shift to go to the gym. What else? We do, I guess, we work with a few clinical psychologists, especially around the programming. So we have a clinical psychologist, mate of ours, who comes in on Fridays, Dr. Angus, and we have a bit of discussion around certain things. But then we also have the opportunity to have private consultation times with another Samoan counsellor, Sharon from Soul Talks. What other well-being things? We've actually, that's a huge part of our kaupapa this year, was very much creating that well-being strategy, because burnout is so real. And I mean, I do it all the time in terms of like working really late hours at night, and just not looking after myself very well. Like, I'm not really good. So it has been a purposeful mission this year, and getting things like middies, trying to do the kind of cultural aspects like blessings, because I think that's all part of it too. And I feel like, we need to just try really what works for us. So this year has been a lot of experimental space around well-being and what works for our team, what works for us individually. But it is important, but it's something that you have to keep purposefully doing, or else you just let it go. So
yeah, outside of traveling back home, back to the homeland of Tonga, like where else have you wanted to travel? I know you love going back to the islands, and it's like your second home. Are there any other places that you have on a bucket list that you're like, I'll go there one day?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably like Italy. I've always
Oh,
wanted to go to Italy and look at all the Renaissance art.
mm,
I think Bolivia, some
mm,
South America area. I think I'm quite interested to, yeah, and even like go to one of those like well-being retreats,
mm.
do some ayahuasca and like really like.
I feel that. I get you. I get you. What do you
Yeah.
want people to know about Tonga? The beautiful, beautiful country of Tonga, beautiful islands there. What do you want people who've never been there or know anything about it? What do you want them to know about your beautiful homeland?
Um, well, they always say that you go to Tonga for the people.
Mm,
So you do. Yeah, and it's the connections that you make over there. It's not this tourist destination in terms of like, we don't have the fancy resorts and everything. So it's you're definitely going there to experience the people and the culture, and I think that that's what makes it quite unique from other places in the Pacific, because yeah, it's I want to go back. I actually haven't been
Yeah.
back since pre-COVID.
Wow. Well,
So
so do you have plans for you and your family, or you've got a project you're thinking about right now? Are you ready to just get on that plane and go?
well, we will be going back at some point for some filming with the Jonah
Mm.
film.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yes, so that's coming up, but I would love to. I won't be able to take the boys
Mm.
there for that. That'll be pretty busy and intense. But I have started a project with Tuvalu, and hopefully, if the funding goes well, next year I'll be able to spend longer periods of time over there. So
Mm.
it'd be good if I can take the kids over there and give them a blast on Tuvalu, which is quite interesting. Yeah, that's
Do you,
another whole
that's a whole
podcast.
another chapter
Yeah.
of the podcast. Do you think you'll ever settle over in Tonga? Like, I feel like with your work, you can do it. Okay, that might be a bit dramatic. I mean, I feel like the type of work that you do, and you give off your spirit is like, I can do this anywhere, man. I can tell stories and film stories anywhere. So, would you ever consider like moving home back to the homeland?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot more content that needs to be made, and you know, I've got a few sort of features and drama series that I want
Mm,
to create in Tonga. So that's coming. I think just for the moment though, building up the Tuttle Patch,
mm,
Southside Studios, Buzz, see where that goes, and then potentially, hopefully, do something kind of similar in Tonga as well. Because there's so much talent there, so much young people who um, just need a little bit more opportunities to be able to do things. Yeah, because there is a lot of young people who just they have no jobs, they have no,
mm.
because there's not the opportunities there. So creating some kind of industry around that would be amazing, you know.
Mm. I ask all the guests, as we begin to wrap up, I always ask guests, do you have a book recommendation? And then I record that you said at the beginning being dyslexic. And I was wondering, do you listen to audiobooks instead? Is there a book that that maybe your kids love to read that you want to plug or recommend?
Well, in saying that, like reading, like I never really had a problem too much with reading
For reading.
because the words are in context. So I
Mm,
could just kind of tell, you know,
mm,
but a word in isolation on itself, oh man, sometimes, yeah. But
mm,
spelling it usually. Reading, oh man, well, that's the other thing is because I've been so busy,
mm.
um, I don't let myself books, read like normal books, like,
Right,
the books where you can escape and stuff in,
right, right.
because I get addicted to them and I have to read them till they finish. And so I
Right.
don't get any other work done. So, you know, like that's yeah. So in terms of books at the moment, oh gosh, that is a super hard one. But I do listen to a lot of podcasts, but
Mm,
it's generally, film creation podcasts or issues
yeah.
or talkback radio.
As we start to wrap up the show, I just want to remind everyone, man, check out Taro Pitch Creative Online. Check out their hub. If you're in Tamaki Makaurau, go through there, say hi to Vea. Check out the bio, Malosi pictures. Follow Vea, see the stuff that they're doing or she's doing online. I mean, get amongst it, fam. Get amongst it. There's so many cool things happening at Taro Patch. So I just want to say, Vea, like I have so many, I so over prepared for this interview. Like I have a lot of questions. I feel like we could just talk forever, but fam, Vea does not have forever. She's got a lot of things to do. She's a very busy woman, and I just want to say, Whawhitai lava, thank you so much for just being open. Like, I was so shocked when you said, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay, I'll come on the podcast. I was like, what? Really? Oh my God. So it's such an honor, and it's been such a blessing to have you on the show, sharing just important parts of your journey. I am looking forward to just continuing to follow all these amazing things that you and your whānau are doing in these community spaces. Like, if we're not doing it, if folks like yourself are not doing it, then who is?
Yeah.
And if you're not out there with your team and your whānau, with your community, putting out our stories and telling our stories the way we want it to be told, then who is doing that? So just huge flowers coming your way, sis. Much alofa, and just keep thriving. Keep striving to be the best you. Look after yourself first, so you can rock up and turn up for everyone that you love and for everyone that you're surrounded by. So that's me to you, and I just want to throw it back to you, sis, and just say final words just to wrap up our talanoa.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on your show. When you reached out, I was like, oh, cool. No, so thank you for the mahi that you're doing, and spreading the word, and come into the Turtle Patch, pop in. We're pretty much open every day of the week, but just come in and check it out. Just have a nosy. But yes, follow us, Facebook, Instagram. We're getting there, we haven't gone hundies on the socials, but but just really blessed to have had this conversation with you, and I'll send you the link to the film, and so
final word of advice from a filmmaker to the listeners, and final director quote, inspire us.
I think my big thing, I've got two.
Okay.
A change of heart is a change of head, and then today is the first day of the rest of your life. And I think that's like, so, that's something that I always come back to, because it's just like, it's never too late. Like everything, you can always start something, because you've got the rest of your life to finish it. So, yes, that's my two big things.